ChatGPT said, "When I first bought that little shack by the lake, it was nothing but a rotting cabin with holes in the roof and raccoons living in the attic. I'd saved up just enough money to buy something, anything, to get away from the noise of city life after my divorce." The listing said, "as is," and I remember laughing when I saw the price tag, $5. That's right, $5. The owner had passed away, the estate was tied up, and the county just wanted it off their books. Most people would have thought it was a scam. But I signed the papers, handed over a crisp bill, and drove home thinking I'd just bought a piece of peace and quiet. When I pulled into the neighborhood for the first time, I realized I wasn't exactly welcome. The sign read, "Lakewood Estates, an HOA community." Beautiful houses lined the road, each one bigger and cleaner than the last. Perfect lawns, designer mailboxes, golf carts parked beside shiny SUVs. Then there was my shack, a weathered, peeling eyesore sitting awkwardly at the edge of their lake. Within an hour of moving in, a silver Lexus pulled up. Out stepped a woman with short blonde hair, a clipboard, and an expression so tight it could slice glass. "I'm Martha Jennings, president of the Lakewood Homeowners Association," she announced before I could even say hello. "We need to talk about your structure." She didn't call it a home. Not even a cabin. A structure. I told her I'd just bought it and planned to fix it up. She smiled, one of those condescending smiles people give when they think you're beneath them. "Well, Mr. Dalton," she said, "we have certain aesthetic standards here. Your building doesn't meet them." I told her politely that the shack sat on my land, and according to the property map, it wasn't even officially part of Lakewood Estates. She frowned, flipped through her clipboard, and said, "We'll look into that." Then she walked away like she'd already decided I didn't belong. Over the next few weeks, I started cleaning the place. I repaired the roof, patched up the walls, and sanded down the deck that looked out over the lake. It was hard work, but I loved every minute of it. Every morning, I'd have coffee by the water, watching mist rise from the surface like something out of a dream. I thought maybe, just maybe, I could turn that shack into a real home. But the HOA didn't stop bothering me. One morning, I woke up to find a bright orange violation notice taped to my front door. Unapproved structure color. I hadn't even painted yet. Another time, they fined me for having improper lawn maintenance. My lawn was mostly wild grass and cattails. Martha and her HOA board came by often, taking pictures, measuring distances, whispering to each other like detectives at a crime scene. I tried to ignore them. Until one evening I saw something that changed everything. Martha was standing at the edge of the lake with two men in suits. They were pointing toward my shack, talking and nodding. I couldn't hear much, but I caught a few words carried by the wind: acquisition, redevelopment, and value increase. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something about it didn't feel right. So I started digging into the property records. Turns out, Lakewood Estates had petitioned the county to expand their lakefront HOA jurisdiction. If they succeeded, my shack, my land, would fall under their control. That's when I decided to fight back. I hired a local surveyor to re-verify the property lines. When he came back with the documents, my jaw dropped. Not only was my land outside the HOA boundaries, but it also included nearly half the lake itself. Somehow, decades ago when the lots were drawn up, my shack's deed included water rights. I owned half of Lakewood's prized lake. Suddenly, it all made sense. The meetings, the acquisition talk, the fake violation notices. The HOA didn't care about my shack being ugly. They wanted my land. I didn't confront Martha right away. Instead, I kept working on the shack. Slowly, it transformed from a rotten shell into something beautiful. I replaced the siding with cedar, built a new deck, installed big glass windows facing the water. Neighbors who used to look down on me started waving. Even a few asked who did my renovations. I told them me. Then a local developer drove by one afternoon. He stopped, looked at the place, and said, "You know, this view alone could sell for millions." I laughed until he handed me his card. "If you ever want to sell," he said, "call me." A few weeks later, another developer came by. Then another. Within months, the area around Lakewood Estates exploded in value. Remote work had people moving out of cities, and lakefront property was the new gold. My $5 shack was suddenly sitting on prime real estate. That's when the HOA turned nasty. They started sending certified letters claiming my dock extended into community property. They fined me for unauthorized shoreline use. They even accused me of polluting the lake. Me, the guy who literally spent his weekends cleaning up trash their kids threw in. Then came the kicker. One morning, I found a for sale sign staked into the ground near my driveway. It said, "Future site of Lakewood Community Pavilion." They were planning to build on my land. I stormed into the HOA office, just a rented space near the clubhouse, and demanded answers. Martha looked up from her desk, feigning innocence. "Oh, that sign?" she said sweetly. "We're in the early stages of community expansion. There's been some confusion about the property boundaries. We'll handle it." "No, you won't," I said. I slid a folder across her desk. Inside were my survey documents, my deed, and a letter from the county clerk verifying my ownership. "This land is mine, including half that lake you're so proud of." Her face drained of color. "That's impossible," she whispered. "Not impossible," I said. "Just inconvenient for you." She tried to argue, but I wasn't done. I told her that every single dock, kayak, and pontoon boat moored on my side of the lake was technically on my property. If they wanted to keep using it, they'd need my written permission. Within a week, the tone shifted. The HOA called an emergency meeting. I wasn't invited, of course, but word travels fast in small communities. They tried to negotiate quietly, offering to purchase the land for a fraction of what it was worth. I refused. Then the rumors started. Martha spread lies that I was planning to sell the lake to a resort developer, that I was ruining their community, that I was greedy. Neighbors who used to smile started avoiding eye contact, but I stayed calm, because I knew the truth, and I knew exactly how to turn the tables. A month later, a real estate agent reached out. He represented a luxury developer interested in building private villas around the lake. Their offer? $5 million for the shack, the land, and my share of the water rights. I accepted. But here's the twist. I didn't sell it outright. I negotiated a deal where I'd keep partial ownership and profit sharing from future sales. When construction began, the entire community buzzed with rumors. The HOA tried everything to stop it, claiming environmental disruption. The county laughed them out of the room. My ownership was legally airtight. When the new villas were announced, prices skyrocketed. Lakewood's property values tripled overnight. Suddenly, the same people who mocked me were trying to welcome me back to community meetings. Martha even showed up at my door with a fake smile, saying, "Perhaps we got off on the wrong foot." I invited her in, handed her a coffee, and let her look out over the lake, now being developed into million-dollar homes. "It's funny," I said. "A few years ago, this shack wasn't good enough for Lakewood Estates. Now you're surrounded by houses worth 5 times what they used to be. All because of this land." She didn't reply, just sipped her coffee, staring out at what used to be her perfect, exclusive lake. Before she left, she asked quietly, "Do you ever plan to join the HOA officially?" I smiled. "No, Martha, but you'll always be swimming in my water." That winter, I watched as the first villa sold for nearly $2 million. My phone buzzed constantly with offers, partnerships, and even a documentary inquiry about the $5 lake shack that changed a neighborhood. Sometimes, I still walk down to the dock with my coffee, the same way I did when I first moved in. The air smells of cedar and water, and the reflection of my rebuilt home glows golden in the morning sun. The HOA doesn't bother me anymore. They can't, not when I own half their view. And every time I pass Martha's house and see her curtains twitch as I drive by, I can't help but smile. Because she laughed when I bought that shack for $5. Now, it's worth $5 million, and she'll never forget who owns the lake.